Good morning. Welcome to the second edition of Glu-talk. We're here with Gareth Meyer. Great to see you, Gareth. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Richard. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. The rain has come down today, unfortunately. I think it's
I
getting
know.
ready for the England-Scotland game, mate.
It is. It is. No different to Scotland with a bit of rain, right?
No, indeed, indeed. So thank you very much for joining us. And it'd be great to hear, all about your exciting times at Ultima and what you're doing. And I know you've got some cloud propositions as well that you're
Yep.
releasing, which sound really, really compelling. But how have Ultima really, adapted and expanded in this time of COVID?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, I suppose, is the way to explain it. The best way to explain it. I mean, we've really prospered, to be honest with you, Richard. Our workspace propositions we had in the marketplace have allowed us to support those customers through the rapid transformation they've faced. It's allowed us to support their end users in a real value add point of view, almost become part of their own IT teams, because we have quite a large consultancy practice that focus on workspace proposition. And it's allowed us to immobilize their workforce. So actually, if anything, if I look at what the pandemic has brought us over the last sort of 16 months, has real digital transformation and outcome-based propositions to our customers.
That's really interesting, right? So you as an organization shifting to much more of an outcome-based strategy as opposed to, going and selling product. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, Ultima are in a lucky place. I mean, we've made a radical investment. We're not a traditional reseller by any shape or form. We've got a significant consultancy arm that forms a huge part of our professional service offering. We're again a MSP, so I would classify us as a modern MSP in today's times as well, focusing on cloud specifically. But obviously we have our infrastructure business unit as well. So, if anything, I think our proposition was in the right place at the right time. I know it sounds quite difficult to understand in that perspective. I mean, it's not nice that any of us have gone through. We as an organization have rapid change going on at the moment. And I think the difference there is outcome-based. It's a continuous change, right?
Yeah.
You can't be stagnant.
No.
You can't sit still for 1 minute. It's the fastest I've ever seen our industry moving. And
Yeah.
it's I classify as almost an evergreen, continuous evergreen.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, right? So certainly from our perspective, we've seen customers changing to now, they've got to align back to their business outcomes, and they're not so much interested anymore around the technology because the vendors have got those kind of relationships, or
Yes.
Google is now out there, and you
Yes.
have these CIOs going on and Googling, what is the best cloud proposition. So what have you guys seen that with your customers? So they're coming to you much more about what they're trying, what their objective is, and how then you align cloud propositions or security or whatever.
Yeah,
Meets
I
their
absolutely agree. And we are seeing that, Richard. Customers are becoming very aware of what's available in the marketplace, not necessarily understanding how to get there. I think that
yeah,
journey. So, if I look at our business propositions and where we've seen accelerated growth, it's specifically in our assessment stages. So we're heavily involved right from the get-go. We're getting a clear understanding of the customer's business itself, how it functions, how it runs, challenges as well. They're very open to sharing weak points, which is absolutely fantastic. In the past, every organization, everyone loves the organization they work for. They're proud of what they've deployed over years to come. But I think it's the change of pace has really accelerated that journey. It's become very open. They want to work in a partnership. It's not about just selling the product anymore. It's absolutely changed from 10 years ago where product was king.
yeah,
It is about mixed vendor technology as well. No
yeah,
vendor can do it all.
yeah.
And I think we're in a great place where we've got our strategic alliances very, very nailed on. We work with the best of breed, but it's also made our vendor alliance team change and look at things quite differently because your traditional vendors don't necessarily do everything. So we've created a technical review board internally. We've dealt with you guys on a couple of our projects as well. Some vendors we haven't necessarily worked with in the past. which has really allowed us to add those additional benefits of the technology out there today.
And that brings me on to actually another point, right? So, have you seen from a vendor perspective, which traditionally they would obviously go with, the VARs and go to you guys and rely on you guys to the customers. Obviously, that's shifted, and they're now got these customer relationships. But do you see that relationship changing as well? Are they still focused around product, or are they really trying to, are they suddenly realizing that the likes of Ultima are having to change, and so they're
Yes.
going to have to change as well to be much more aligned to the customer in the future.
Yeah, it's very clear what the vendors are doing in the marketplace today. If I look at, the top 5 of our 8 strategic vendors, a lot of them are moving to cloud-based technologies.
Yeah,
Recurring revenue is absolutely critical for these vendors today. It's not about the big bang anymore, those
no,
big perpetual purchases, which is an impact on all of us because we're shifting our revenues
yep,
into years, but it creates a real relationship with the customer. It doesn't necessarily tie them in. And I suppose this is where us and the vendors are having to think very differently around customer success. So,
yep,
that
yep,
absolute key part, I think, of any customer's journey as they move into SaaS models and subscription models, those customers can turn you off a lot easier today
yep,
versus a big perpetual spend because they are spreading that workload, that cost as well. And I think it's about getting the journey right for the customer and really enabling them to take advantage of the technologies out there. But as a reseller, I think it's becoming quite difficult. And I've always spoken openly on that fact. I mean, the relationship is clearly becoming stronger with the vendor and the customer as they start to consume their technologies. And it's all about that value wrap, the service you
yep.
can wrap around it. If if you have a managed services business, you're in a really good place today because you are alleviating the customer's sort of risks in the
Yep.
organization, putting best of breed technology experts in place and really supporting that customer at a long-term basis, not short. No, it's no longer about short-term outcomes anymore. It's about that long-term journey.
Yeah, and you mentioned around CX. So obviously I know you've invested heavily in your
Yes.
CX proposition, and obviously you've talked around leading with business outcomes, but that renewals aspect as well, and that whole end-to-end journey. So making sure that you are aligned, because where I'm seeing, Gareth, is obviously CIOs or people within the industry are moving. And they're moving at quite a rapid pace now. So as jobs are coming up and they're jumping ship, and where I've seen customers then go in, CIOs go in and said, right, okay, well, why did we, spend £2 million on
Yeah.
renewing, doing this Azure or AWS or proposition? We can go and do it cheaper if we go and build on-prem, because they don't understand actually what they were trying to achieve. And I think what you guys are doing, leading with that business outcome, and then having that aspect of following up with CX, that's really that whole end-to-end journey, right? And
Absolutely. And, we're seeing CX being adopted by customers rapidly. A lot of our vendors are supporting that CX framework. You guys definitely helped us. I've got to give a shout out to Glu on that front. If it wasn't for yourselves, we did a number of projects right from the start, and all the outcomes were extremely successful, not just for us, but for the customer at the end of the day, really adopting and utilizing all the available tool sets within the suite of products. And I think
Mhm.
that's absolutely key. Time is a challenge for us all.
Yeah,
You've got small IT departments working with very remote employees at this point in time. I can
yeah,
see that specifically. I mean, my warehouse is up 400% versus last year, and that's just because we're deploying equipment out to end user locations and then having to send engineering services to make sure that that equipment set up correctly. But it's absolutely about the adoption, the framework you put in place. And when you talk about renewals, I've actually kept the 2 business units separate
hmm,
because I do see a traditional renewals business as well as that journey. And, they've got 2 different processes in place to manage.
yeah,
And, I almost see our CX team as the auditors, right? What's truly going on with that customer? What's
yeah.
happening internally in their business? And are they getting the true value? Whereas a renewals function had 2 years ago had specific KPIs around you need to renew on a date. That doesn't
Yeah.
come into place when you're talking about CX.
No, No, and that's fair enough, right? So that's really good. That's really good information back to everybody as well, and some really good advice there. So what are you guys doing to, obviously with everything moving and lots of people now leading with these kind of journeys or going through these transformations? How are you differentiating yourself in the market as a value added reseller?
Well, I'll look at our managed services business. It was skill set and people became a challenge for us some time ago. As customers started to migrate to the cloud and start that journey, we found it very, very difficult to recruit. There was a definite shortage in the market around good talent
Yeah,
to allow us to support our customers. So obviously, Ultima has quite a significant automation background. We were one of the first solution companies that jumped on the back of the RPA proposition. We built our own RPA proposition out to support workspace security wrap, because that's always a concern for any CXO out in the market
yeah.
today, is who's got access to our infrastructure at any time,
It
regardless
still
of where it
is. It
sits. A
still is.
massive issue. So we developed something called IA Connect. But what we did is we tried to automate as much as we possibly could in that journey to the cloud. So we built out a number of tool sets. Autonomous Migrate helps you go from on-prem into cloud in a secure manner using best practice as well. Absolutely key there. And then we completed our journey, I suppose, with something called IA Cloud. Now, when I say completed, it never ends, right? It's a
Right.
SaaS-based platform. It's allowed us to really sort of accelerate our cloud journey with our customers and support them. So take a lot of the functions you'd have to do hands-on and automate them, giving the consultants the time back to actually do what they're there to do, and that's sit with the customer, understand their estates, talk about the new upcoming product sets, talk about the transformation they can make internally, supporting their end users. And that was key. So we did build the IA Cloud proposition out. That is going to channel now. So we do see it as a
Okay.
massive benefit. It's significantly increased our ability to support the customer. It's decreased our headcount requirement in doing so as well, which has allowed us to continue investing in our DevOps team, what I think is absolutely incremental today. And it's really transformed our managed service proposition into a truly modern managed service proposition. And I think that's the key difference there. Customers aren't aware of what's happening in the background. They just know it's happening, right, through
Yeah.
automation.
Yeah, and well, okay, a couple of things there, right? So, I mean, it sounds like you're moving much more towards us being a software business, a service business as well, that then can go and support all of those other channel providers. So, I mean, that's a complete shift, and that's immense. But having done cloud migrations as well, Gareth, they are some of the most painful memories that I've
Yep.
possibly got, right? So,
I have to agree, Richard.
yeah. And the amount of times having to sit there sweating as we're moving servers from on-premise into cloud, and hoping they're going to work, and doing all the testing and everything. So, I mean, if you've cracked that nut, that's certainly something that I think everybody can really benefit from, and that automation key going all the way through. So,
Yeah.
have you have you started to see an acceleration around the uptake around that as well then?
We actually have, yeah. So one of our first our test pilot was to migrate our traditional Azure managed service customers onto the platform, which we did so, and we got absolutely glowing responses back from the customer. Automated documentation, where take your engineering team a day to do, and the following day it's different, right? So complete
Yeah.
waste of a day. So we've automated that process. Automated patching. Patching is the worst thing for anyone in the world to do today, right? It's so this automates that process completely end to end as well, but gives you the option. Obviously, it's all about giving the customer the option if they want to do things, but it will alert the security wrap, right? It'll automatically pick up any security risks you have in the environment. But again, it goes back to that assessment, Richard, because no one cloud migration is the same. You've
No.
got customers sitting on traditional Azure platforms, those are the worst to migrate into the new modern platform. You know, and then you've got those on-prems where those legacy apps are just, you can't migrate them, I'm afraid. You know, there are certain things out there, but that's the start of the journey. If you can get as much as you can up into the cloud, you can focus on what you can't at that point in time. It is hybrid. You know, we are seeing a trend. Hybrid is definitely the way customers are going. You know, we've had some customers that have moved to the cloud and now looking at bringing certain applications back as well. You know, so it's no one fit is right for any organization, but it's having the ability to flex your own organization to support them. And Ultima in a great place, we have the ability to do all.
And that sounds really exciting, right? So not only traditionally serving your customers, but you're now branching out into that channel space as well, and software building as well. So really exciting and innovational time for you guys, and that's great. Where do you one of the questions I always get asked is, you know, where do you see the role of the partner in the future? So we're not talking about, you know, the next 1 or 2 years, but the next 5 years. Obviously, you know, you guys have taken that huge leap of shifting from supplier to partner, and being strategic. How do you see your role now shifting with the customer?
It's an advisory role. I see it at this point in time. We're truly an advisory. I mean, for many years we talked about the reseller being that strategic partner to the customer, and let's be honest, we're more resell than anything else. Majority of the channel was resell focused on just supplying infrastructure and software. You can't do that in today's times. You know, that customer has the ability to buy anything online. You know, you're right on your assessment of Google. You know, customers will Google things as you're going through. It's about being open and honest about your true capabilities. I think partnering is absolutely becoming key. You know, I've got 300 plus technical heads in our business, and we can't do it all. If I look at my workspace teams, they're 98% utilized at any given time. You know, so we do have great partnerships out there as well. But it's about really driving business outcome change with the customer and being honest about what you can do and bringing the partner in where you can't. And I think long term, customers will be transacting directly with vendors more. And then us deploying, implementing, so services, managed services, I think the true future of our entire industry.
And that's really interesting you say that, because I mean, there are some vendors that I'm hearing things that they are going to start doing that, right? So they're building their own marketplaces to go to customers. And then that's not necessarily cutting out the partners. It's more about they want that direct relationship, but then you guys then are offering the advisory overview, the professional services, the managed services, all of that side of things, which, you know, ultimately getting away from, I'm going to go and sell you a bit of tin or a bit of software, to now we're going to provide you a service, that true experience, if you like.
I mean, you can even see it, Richard, in our distribution layers, right? Distribution have been great for the last 30 years, just pushing product out into the market, supporting the reseller. But if you look at what Tech Data is doing with their marketplace today, you know, they've got a massive investment in their new up and coming Ion platform. You know, that is a big bet in there, but it allows the partner to deliver its services via it. So it allows you to really stand out from the crowd, I think. And if you're looking at distribution doing so, they can see that shift coming as well. You know, they have to say very, very unique. And, you know, Tech Data has got a great proposition in that front that, you know, we're really on board. We've had the privilege of seeing a lot of the platform before it's been released, etc. And we're going to push a lot of our own services and value add wrap through the marketplace. I don't necessarily think marketplace is be all end all, and we've seen it. You know, a lot of our propositions on the Microsoft marketplace as well. I still think there's a sense of trust that customers are still going to have to build. It's not a case of just buying anything with a credit card on a website, because that, again, it comes to that assessment phase. I think you really need to understand what the customer's doing.
Yeah, and you're absolutely spot on. You know, when I was in post, you didn't buy because it was the cheapest. You bought because of the fact that, you know, I knew I could phone you up at 3 o'clock in the morning when there's an issue, or I knew you were going to make me successful in front of the board. Because ultimately, that's what customers want, right? Is
Yeah.
they want to work with people who are going to make them successful, make them look good back to the board, and do their job in the most efficient way. So brilliant. Well, it sounds like a really exciting time for
It
you
is,
guys.
absolutely.
I want to say, what advice would you give to, you know, the up and coming, all of the other MSPs that are out there at the minute?
I think automation plays a huge pivotal role in the future success of any organization today. And it's not about losing headcount. It's all about giving them the time to upskill. I mean, if you look at our business, we're continuously upskilling our staff. Um, uh, Whether that be technically, you know, leadership focus, you know, we have a huge development process in place. We've digitized, we've modernized our own business, you know, new LMS tools internally, new platforms, new ITSM platforms. It's about investing in continuous investment. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind your competitors in the market today.
Yeah, and sat there right at the very beginning, right, with the being a supplier and just shifting the thing, and you're going to get eaten up.
Absolutely.
But when they start to move. So Gareth, I want to say thank you very much for your time, and
No problem.
some really insightful stuff. And it sounds so exciting what you guys are doing. And I look forward to seeing the cloud proposition right out there in the market.
Yeah, we need to get that demo sorted, don't we, Rich?
Yeah, we do. We do.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
No,
Cheers.
absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me today, Richard.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.